You mean to tell me these primitives responded to our ultimatum with a meme? High Commander Zixtal's secondary breathing cavity whistled in disbelief as he stared at the transmission display. Yes, sir. Communications Officer Vernax replied, her tentacles curling in obvious discomfort. They sent what appears to be an image of a small Earth creature they call a cat, hanging from some kind of horizontal support structure. The text reads, "Hang in there, baby." The bridge of the Galactic Confederation's flagship fell silent as the crew processed this unprecedented response to their standard conquest protocol. After 3 cycles of meticulous preparation, careful strategic positioning, and the deployment of their most intimidating fleet formation, humanity had apparently decided that the appropriate response to surrender or face annihilation was to send back what their cultural database identified as vintage motivational office decor. Zixtal's chromatophores shifted through various shades of purple before settling on a deep indigo of frustration. Have they sent anything else? Well, Vernax hesitated, her visual receptors flickering rapidly. They also included what appears to be an ancient Earth video clip of a human male in elaborate clothing performing a rhythmic dance movement. Our systems indicate it's something called Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. The High Commander's exoskeleton creaked as he slumped in his command chair. In his 300 cycles of military service, he had overseen the conquest of 17 civilizations, but none had ever responded to the threat of total destruction with what appeared to be a combination of outdated office decorations and archival dance footage. Perhaps, strategic analyst Krathos offered from his station, this is some form of psychological warfare we haven't encountered before. Psychological warfare? Zixtal's voice modulator crackled with skepticism. They sent us a dancing primate in what our database identifies as mom genes. Sir? Vernax interrupted, her tentacles now writhing in what could only be described as panic. We're receiving another transmission. It's a request for a parent-teacher conference. A what? The humans say that since we're acting like, and I quote, petulant children throwing a tantrum in the cosmic playground, they feel obligated to schedule a meeting with our guardians to discuss our behavior. The bridge erupted in a cacophony of confused clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses as the crew tried to process this development. Zixtal felt his primary heart begin to fibrillate. This was definitely not covered in the standard conquest manual. Sir, the weapons officer called out, we're detecting unusual activity from Earth's direction. Finally, Zixtal breathed in relief. They're preparing their defenses? No, sir. They appear to be setting up folding chairs. And someone is bringing cookies? The massive view screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life, showing a hastily assembled meeting area in Earth's orbit. Several human spacecraft had indeed arranged themselves in a rough circle, with what appeared to be fold-out furniture strapped to their hulls. A larger vessel was approaching, its external displays proudly announcing, "Bake sale for Alien Invasion Defense Fund." They can't be serious, Zixtal muttered, but deep in his tertiary digestive tract, he was beginning to feel what humans would call butterflies. The next transmission came through with a cheerful ping. Hello, potential invaders. We've set up a nice little space for us to talk things through. We've got chocolate chip cookies, some lovely chamomile tea, and a PowerPoint presentation on why attempting to conquer Earth is statistically comparable to poking a sleeping bear with a sharp stick while wearing meat-scented cologne. Sir, Krathos said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. I've been analyzing their historical records. Did you know they once went to war over a bucket? Bucket? Yes, sir. And apparently, they developed faster-than-light travel, not because they wanted to explore the cosmos, but because someone on their internet forum called Reddit said it was impossible, and they took it personally. Zixtal felt his chromatophores involuntarily shift to the pale yellow of dawning horror. Are you suggesting? Sir, I've run the numbers. This species once set fire to a body of water. They invented a food called pineapple pizza just to start arguments. Their response to discovering nuclear fission was to immediately think about how it could be used to launch their spacecraft using controlled explosions. They call this perfectly rational spacecraft propulsion design Project Orion. The High Commander's third eye began to twitch. Surely they're not all— Sir! Vernax interrupted again. They're sending us homework assignments and detention slips. The view screen updated to show a human document titled Understanding Why Invasion Attempts Are Not Nice, a comprehensive workbook for aspiring space bullies. It was decorated with cartoon stickers and had a space for their names and the date. Additional data, sir, Krathos continued, his voice now carrying the tone of someone who had seen too much. They have multiple entertainment simulations about defeating alien invasions. They've been actively fantasizing about and preparing for this exact scenario for over a century, and sir, they seem to enjoy it. Zixtal watched as more human ships arrived in the impromptu orbital meeting space. Some were now setting up what appeared to be a coffee station, while others were hanging inspirational posters about conflict resolution and the importance of using your words instead of your planet-destroying superweapons. Sir, Vernax said quietly, they're asking if anyone in our fleet has food allergies they should be aware of. They want to make sure the cookies are safe for everyone. The High Commander stood up slowly, his exoskeleton creaking in defeat. Send a message to Central Command. Tell them... He paused, watching as a human ship began enthusiastically deploying what appeared to be a banner reading, "Welcome to Earth's first interstellar conflict resolution seminar. Snacks provided." Tell them we're initiating Protocol Nope. Full retreat. And send our compliments to the Humans Hospitality Committee. Sir? Vernax's tentacles twisted in confusion. What about the Conquest Directive? Officer Vernax, any species that responds to a threat of annihilation by organizing a bake sale and attempting to send us to detention is not a species we want to provoke. I've seen enough of their historical records to know that they consider both total victory and total annihilation to be equally acceptable outcomes, as long as they can make memes about it afterward. As the Galactic Confederation fleet began its hasty retreat from Earth space, the final transmission from humanity came through. Don't forget your homework packets, and remember, sharing is caring, even in interstellar space. Zixtal would later submit the longest and most unusual after-action report in Confederation history. It began with the words, "Humanity is what happens when you give a species with the chaos energy of a sugar-rushed toddler, the intelligence to split atoms, and the creativity to weaponize both interpretive dance and passive-aggressive hospitality." The report was immediately classified at the highest level, and a new directive was added to the Standard Conquest Manual. If target species responds to threats with baked goods and educational materials, initiate immediate retreat and submit formal apology. Some battles aren't worth the therapy bills. Years later, humanity would find itself in the peculiar position of being the only known civilization to have defeated an alien invasion force with a combination of memes, cookies, and mandatory sensitivity training. They celebrated this achievement by creating more memes about it. And somewhere in deep space, a very stressed alien high commander still attended weekly counseling sessions to process the trauma of being sent to detention by an entire planet. The Galactic Confederation's Standard Conquest Manual underwent several revisions following the Earth incident, as it came to be known in official documentation. The most notable addition was an entire chapter titled, "Understanding Human Psychological Warfare Techniques, a Comprehensive Guide to Avoiding Bake Sale Trauma." High Commander Zixtal, now serving as a guest lecturer at the Confederation Military Academy, found himself repeatedly explaining to young cadets why the sight of chocolate chip cookies still triggered his flight response. "You have to understand," he would say, his chromatophores shifting to a reflective shade of blue. "They weaponized kindness. Do you know how psychologically devastating it is to prepare for glorious combat, only to be offered tea and a discussion about your feelings?" The lecture hall would inevitably fill with confused clicks and whistles from the cadets, none of whom could quite grasp the concept of a species that considered passive-aggressive hospitality a valid military strategy. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was dealing with its newfound reputation in its own unique way. The United Nations had established a Department of Interstellar Hospitality and Conflict Resolution, whose official mission statement read, "Making the galaxy a better place, one uncomfortable social interaction at a time." The department's first major initiative was to send gift baskets to every known spacefaring civilization. Each basket contained a selection of Earth's finest passive-aggressive literature, including titles such as "So You Think You Want to Invade Earth," a self-help guide, and "Making Friends in the Cosmic Community, even if you started off by threatening planetary annihilation." The Arctuvian Empire, known for its ruthless expansion policies, received their basket with great confusion. The accompanying card read, "We noticed you've been expanding your territory lately. Here's some light reading about healthy boundaries and respecting personal space. XOXO, Earth." The Arctuvian War Council spent 3 full cycles analyzing the meaning behind XOXO, before declaring it a form of encrypted military threat and establishing a defensive perimeter around their borders. Back at the Galactic Confederation headquarters, the Department of Species Analysis was still trying to categorize humans properly. Their latest attempt at an official classification read, Species, Human, Homo sapiens, Threat Level. Yes, notable characteristics. Response to threats with either terminal politeness or terminal velocity warning. Do not attempt to determine which response you will receive in advance. Additional note. Has somehow weaponized both baked goods and educational materials. Recommendation. Avoid provoking at all costs. Send birthday cards to maintain diplomatic relations. The classification was accompanied by a series of incident reports, including one particularly notable case where a human diplomatic vessel responded to a pirate attack by inviting the pirates to a workshop on career development and alternative life choices. The pirates, caught off guard by the offer of resume writing assistance and professional networking opportunities, ended up enrolling in night classes and starting a legitimate interstellar shipping company. The human vessel's captain later received a commendation for outstanding achievement in rehabilitative space diplomacy, though some questioned whether offering student loan advice to space pirates was strictly within standard military protocol. Earth's orbit became home to a permanent interstellar welcome center, complete with a coffee shop that served beverages from across the galaxy. The shop's most popular drink was the First Contact Frap, advertised with the tagline, "Make peace, not war. But if you choose war, at least have a decent coffee first." The center also hosted weekly support group meetings for alien military commanders suffering from what became known as post-terrestrial stress disorder, PTSD, particularly traumatic socialization disorder. Common symptoms included an irrational fear of PowerPoint presentations and breaking into cold sweats at the sight of folding chairs being arranged in a circle. Humanity's approach to interstellar relations continued to baffle the galactic community. When the Proximan Collective attempted to establish dominance by sending Earth a detailed list of their military capabilities, they received in return a spreadsheet comparing their invasion budget to the estimated cost of joining Earth's newly established Galactic Community Theater Group. The spreadsheet included a note. "We couldn't help but notice you're investing a lot in military hardware. Have you considered community theater as a healthier outlet for your need for drama? Our production of West Side Story could really use some more participants for the rival alien gang." The Proximan Collective's subsequent decision to redirect their military budget into theatrical productions led to what historians would later call the Great Galactic Shakespeare Revival. Their production of Macbeth, with an all-alien cast, received rave reviews, though some critics noted that the authentic use of actual space witches might have been taking theatrical realism a step too far. Even the dreaded swarm consciousness of the Perseus arm found itself unconsciously adapting to humanity's unusual diplomatic style. After their initial threat of consumption was met with an invitation to a potluck dinner. "Since you're planning to consume us anyway, you might as well try our recipes first." The swarm found itself increasingly interested in Earth's culinary arts rather than its biological biomass. This led to the unlikely establishment of the first interstellar cooking competition show, Master Chef, Galactic Edition, where the sight of a hive mind consciousness wearing a chef's hat and arguing about proper seasoning techniques became regular entertainment across the galaxy. The Galactic Confederation eventually established new protocols for dealing with humanity, distributed in a manual titled Human Interaction Guidelines, because traditional warfare isn't worth the group therapy sessions. The manual included such helpful chapters as Understanding Human Idioms, Why Kill Them with Kindness Should Be Taken Literally, The Strategic Importance of Bringing Snacks to Potential Conflicts, Defensive Maneuvers Against Human Icebreaker Activities, Emergency Protocols for Dealing with Human Team-Building Exercises. High Commander Zixtal, in his final address before retiring from military service, summed up the galaxy's new approach to human relations. "In all my years of service, I never encountered a species that could make you question your life choices quite like humans can. They don't just defeat you, they make you attend a workshop about why you wanted to fight in the first place, then send you home with homework and cookies, and somehow that's worse than any conventional defeat could ever be." The address was interrupted by the arrival of a gift basket from Earth containing stress relief coloring books, scented candles, and a note reading, "Heard you were retiring. Hope these help with the transition. Remember, it's never too late to pursue your dreams. We're offering pottery classes every Thursday in the Interstellar Welcome Center." Zixtal's chromatophores flashed briefly before settling into the newly recognized pattern that the Confederation's xenopsychologists had termed human-induced resignation. "You see?" he said to his audience, holding up the basket. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. They're probably already planning a retirement party for me, with party games and trust falls." He shuddered, his exoskeleton rattling slightly. "The worst part is I'll probably enjoy it." And that, perhaps, was humanity's most terrifying weapon of all. The ability to make even their former would-be conquerors actually look forward to the next neighborhood barbecue in low Earth orbit. The Galactic Confederation's official archives now contain a special section dedicated to monitoring human diplomatic activities, filed under Tactical Analysis of Aggressive Hospitality Techniques. The latest report simply reads, "They're at it again. This time they're organizing a galactic talent show. May the cosmos help us all." The Galactic Confederation's Cultural Advisory Board was having what humans would call a day. "They want to do what?" First Minister Krathos asked, his crystalline structure vibrating with concern. "They're calling it Cultural Exchange Week," the junior analyst explained, their appendages trembling slightly as they read from the official Earth proposal. "They want to share their memes with the entire galactic community." The chamber fell into the sort of silence that usually precedes either enlightenment or disaster. Given that they were dealing with humans, the smart money was on disaster. "Define memes," Krathos commanded, already dreading the answer. According to their documentation, memes are the DNA of the soul, but funnier. They've included several examples, including something called "This is Fine Dog" and "Woman Yelling at Cat." The First Minister's crystalline structure emitted a low hum of distress. "And they wish to share these cultural artifacts with everyone?" "Yes, sir. They're describing it as essential cultural context for understanding human diplomatic communications." Meanwhile, on Earth, the Department of Interstellar Hospitality and Conflict Resolution was preparing for what they considered their most ambitious project yet. The official mission brief read, "Operation Culture Shock, because if we have to deal with these memes, so does everyone else." The project's lead coordinator, Dr. Sarah Chen, was currently explaining to a very confused Arctuvian ambassador why humans found pictures of cats with misspelled captions so entertaining. "You see," she said, pointing to a classic image of a feline requesting cheeseburger. "It's funny because, well, cats can't actually speak, and if they could, they wouldn't speak like this and—" She paused, noting the ambassador's secondary eyes had begun to glaze over. "Maybe we should start with something simpler. Have you heard of rickrolling?" Across the galaxy, various species were attempting to process this new wave of human cultural exportation with varying degrees of success. The hive-mind consciousness of the Zeta Reticuli cluster spent 3 standard cycles trying to understand why humans found it amusing to say stonks when referring to financial matters. The Proximan Collective, still riding high on their theatrical success, attempted to incorporate memes into their latest production of Hamlet. The resulting performance, which included Hamlet holding up a skull and declaring, "Much dead, very tragedy, wow," received mixed reviews but became an unexpected hit on Earth's social media platforms. Even the Stoic Volnexians, known for their rigid adherence to logic and reason, found themselves inadvertently incorporating human mimetic expressions into their formal diplomatic communications. The first time a Volnexian high counselor responded to a budget proposal with, "This is not the way," the entire council chamber had to be evacuated due to the unprecedented outbreak of emotional displays. The Galactic Confederation's diplomatic corps began offering mandatory training sessions titled, "Understanding Human Internet Culture, a Survivor's Guide." The course outline included such essential topics as, Lesson 1, Why Humans Reference a Dancing Baby from Their Early Digital Age. Lesson 2, The Strategic Importance of Understanding That's What She Said. Lesson 3, Dealing with Loss, JPG, a Psychological Preparation Course. Advanced Seminar, Pepe the Frog and Its Impact on Interstellar Relations. The training sessions were immediately oversubscribed, largely because they were the only way to understand roughly 60% of human diplomatic communications. High Commander Zixtal, now running a successful therapy practice for military leaders traumatized by human interaction, found himself explaining to his clients why humans would respond to formal diplomatic inquiries with images of SpongeBob SquarePants taken out of context. "The key," he would say, his chromatophores displaying the now familiar pattern of human-induced resignation, "is to not try to understand it, but to accept that understanding isn't necessary for peaceful coexistence. Earth's Interstellar Welcome Center had to expand its facilities to include a meme museum, which quickly became the most visited and most confusing cultural institution in the galaxy. The museum's most popular exhibit was the Evolution of Internet Humor timeline, which attempted to explain how humanity got from all your base or belong to us to deep-fried surrealist memes. The museum's guest book contained such memorable entries as, "Visited exhibit. Still don't understand humans. 1010 would be confused again." Anonymous hive mind consciousness. The cursed knowledge has been obtained. We can never go back. Volnexian Cultural Research Team. Came to study human warfare tactics, left understanding Big Chungus. Not sure if this is an improvement. Arctuvian Military Observer. The Cultural Exchange Initiative reached its peak when humanity decided to introduce the concept of shitposting to the galactic diplomatic community. The resulting chaos led to the first-ever emergency session of the Galactic Council dedicated entirely to discussing proper meme usage in formal diplomatic channels. The session's minutes, now classified at the highest level, reportedly included the phrase, "And then the eternal emperor of the Glorban Dominion responded with, 'Sir, this is a Wendy's,' followed by 4 hours of attempting to explain to various species what a Wendy's was. The Department of Species Analysis had to update their classification of humans yet again. Warning. Species has developed memetic warfare capabilities. Standard translation protocols may be insufficient. Recommend neural interface upgrades to include Urban Dictionary and Know Your Meme databases. Additional note. Species appears to communicate primarily through layered references to their own cultural artifacts. Attempting to understand these references may cause existential crisis in non-human entities. Recommendation. When in doubt, respond with 'This is the way.' Success rate, 60% and climbing. The Arctuvian War Council, still recovering from their initial XOXO trauma, established a dedicated task force for decoding human cultural transmissions. Their first major breakthrough was successfully identifying and cataloging different types of cat vibes. They considered this such a significant achievement that they added a cat emoji to their official military insignia. Meanwhile, humanity continued its relentless campaign of cultural integration. The latest initiative, tentatively titled Teaching the Galaxy to Vibe, promised to introduce the concept of mood to species that experienced emotions in purely binary states. The project proposal, submitted to the Galactic Council, contained only 2 lines. Phase 1. Share the entire history of human meme culture with the galaxy. Phase 2. Phase 3. Universal peace through shared confusion. Surprisingly, or perhaps unsurprisingly given humanity's track record, it seemed to be working. The rate of interstellar conflicts had dropped significantly, largely because potential combatants were too busy trying to understand why humans found pictures of frogs on unicycles so compelling. As one Volnexian philosopher noted in their groundbreaking work, The Impact of Human Memetic Warfare on Galactic Society, perhaps the true power of humanity lies not in their ability to wage war, but in their capacity to make the very concept of serious conflict seem absurd through the strategic deployment of pictures of cats asking for cheeseburgers. The philosopher was later awarded the Galactic Peace Prize for this insight, though they had to decline the ceremonial speech opportunity after discovering they had become, in human terms, a meme themselves. The Galactic Confederation's Department of Administrative Affairs was experiencing what their human consultants would term an existential crisis. The cause of this unprecedented disruption to their usually well-ordered existence was a single document, Earth's proposed revisions to the Standard Galactic Bureaucratic Procedures Manual. They want to add emojis to official documentation, Senior Administrator QX Tilp announced to the assembled board, their tentacles twisted into what the department's human cultural advisor had identified as the xenobiological equivalent of a stress knot. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft sound of various alien appendages nervously shuffling papers. That's not the worst part, QX Tilp continued, their bioluminescent spots pulsing with distress. They've also suggested implementing something called Casual Fridays. The chamber erupted in alarmed chittering. Several junior administrators had to be escorted out for emergency meditation sessions. Meanwhile, at the newly established Earth Embassy to the Galactic Confederation, Human Ambassador Maria Rodriguez was defending her proposal to revolutionize galactic bureaucracy. Look, she explained to a horrified panel of alien administrators. All I'm saying is that maybe, just maybe, we don't need 17 different forms in triplicate just to request permission to file a request. But that's how it's always been done, protested Chief Protocol Officer Zintax, whose species had evolved specifically to process paperwork. The form filing permission request, form request protocol, has been in place for 12,000 cycles. Yes, Maria agreed, pulling up a PowerPoint presentation titled Efficiency, because life's too short for your bureaucracy, even for species that live for millennia. And has anyone ever questioned why? The resulting silence was deafening. Across the galaxy, countless bureaucrats felt a disturbance in the administrative force, as if millions of rubber stamps suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. The human influence on galactic administration continued to spread like a particularly efficient virus. The first major change came when Earth introduced the concept of email to replace the traditional method of sending documents via quantum-entangled particle transmission through 17 different departments for approval. The Arctuvian Empire's administrative division initially resisted this change, claiming that their quantum-entangled particle transmission system was perfectly adequate. This stance lasted until someone showed them how to use emoji reactions in group chats. Within a week, the entire Empire had switched to the new system, though there was some concern about the Supreme Administrator's excessive use of the sparkle emoji. The Volnexian High Council of Paperwork, officially renamed to Digital Solutions Management after human consultation, found itself dealing with an unprecedented situation when their entire filing system was replaced with something humans called Google Docs. But how will we maintain our 17 layers of backup bureaucracy? One council member asked during the transition meeting. Control+C, Control+V, the human IT consultant replied, unleashing chaos upon a civilization that had previously required a minimum of 3 forms to copy a single document. The Proximan Collective, still riding their theatrical success, decided to combine their new love of drama with administrative duties. This led to the galaxy's first interpretive dance performance of quarterly budget reports. Critics called it surprisingly engaging and a bold new take on fiscal responsibility, though some questioned whether the choreographed representation of tax code amendments was strictly necessary. Even the dreaded Department of Species Classification had to adapt. Their traditional 400-page species classification forms were replaced with what humans called bullet points and executive summaries. The resulting efficiency increase left thousands of professional form fillers with an existential crisis and too much free time, leading to the establishment of the galaxy's first bureaucrats' book club. The book club's first selection, Who Moved My Quantum Cheese? A Guide to Accepting Administrative Change, became an unexpected bestseller across the galaxy. The Galactic Confederation's official meeting protocols underwent similar transformations. The traditional 47-step greeting ceremony was replaced with what humans called a quick sync. The first time someone suggested taking this offline during a full council session, 3 species had to update their translation matrices to account for the concept. High Commander Zixtal, now running both his therapy practice and a surprisingly successful YouTube channel called Reactions to Human Bureaucracy, found himself explaining to his viewers why humans considered reply all to be both a blessing and a curse. They have somehow, he explained to his audience of traumatized administrators, managed to create something even more terrifying than our traditional bureaucracy, efficient bureaucracy with GFs. The Department of Administrative Affairs eventually had to establish a new division specifically dedicated to understanding and implementing human administrative innovations. The division was named HELP, Human Efficiency and Logistics Protocols, though some suggested the acronym might have been chosen by someone with a grudge against traditional bureaucracy. The HELP division's first major project was implementing something humans called a suggestion box. The concept of allowing lower-ranking officials to propose improvements without filing 17 different permission forms caused such controversy that the Galactic Council had to declare a galaxy-wide mental health day, another human innovation that proved surprisingly popular. The suggestion box's first entry read simply, "Maybe we don't need a form to approve the creation of new forms." The administrative old guard considered this borderline heresy, while younger officials began what they called a paperwork revolution, inspired by human concepts of efficiency. The revolution reached its peak when someone introduced the concept of working from home to species that had evolved specifically to work in bureaucratic offices. The resulting paradigm shift was so profound that the galactic calendar had to be updated to mark it as the beginning of a new era, the post-paperwork age. Meanwhile, humanity continued to spread what they called administrative common sense throughout the galaxy. Their latest initiative involved introducing the concept of lunch breaks to species that processed nutrients through photosynthesis. It's not about the food, Ambassador Rodriguez explained to a confused panel of plant-based bureaucrats. It's about the principle of the thing. Also, office snacks are great for morale. The Galactic Administrative Reform Commission, established to monitor these changes, released their latest report in what humans called a tweet thread, causing several senior officials to retire on the spot. The report's conclusion was succinct. TFW, you realize your entire civilization's administrative system can be replaced by a decent project management app. Hashtag galactic efficiency, hashtag humans, why are you like this? The final note added to Earth's file in the Galactic Archives was submitted through a Google form and included a GIF of a cat knocking papers off a desk, along with the comment, "Current status of traditional galactic bureaucracy." Also, we're thinking of rebranding the archives as Space Wikipedia. Thoughts?